Hello there, C-Note here, and welcome back to DOPEamine. I am your host, Christian Rivera, and today I just wanted to quickly celebrate with you 5,000 subscribers. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching, leaving comments, participating, telling me what is resonating with you, what you need help with, and your general thoughts and vibes, right? I appreciate you so much for that, and it keeps me doing this. I honestly have had so much of a push and pull with this channel with talking about INTPs, and I'm just going to use this opportunity to be as blunt and honest with you as possible about some of the weirdness of having a YouTube channel specifically about INTPs. First of all, INTPs not very lucrative. It takes a while for you guys to want to buy into an idea or to get further support. And I understand, as an INTP as well, I browse as much free content as possible before I dive into something that I realize has a barrier to it, right? Like not every you know, information we feel is egalitarian. And so for me as an INTP, I feel that way as well. And so when I'm giving you information, I also want to include some advice in there, almost as like a little bit of a smuggle so that you can grow while listening to this stuff. Because I don't want to be just one of those channels that is just like, I'm one of 16 personalities. Like that's not my jam. That's not what I do. There is a growth bridge here. There's a growth focus. And so that's why I have premium content. And so there are some of you that have come over to that, which is amazing, and given some support to the channel, and that means a lot. But what I want to provide for you is value, and that's why I have continued to try to figure this out. Because for you as an INTP, like, information is not everything. I mean, I know it feels like it's everything to you, but there's more. There's this another step. There's other things to learn and do, and I hope that sharing my experience has been helpful on this channel. But then for those of you who are considering or willing to go into the premium content, that's another avenue that I appreciate your support in as well. But by all means, you know, I'm going to keep making free content here and do my best to provide support in a way that is that is not overstepping my own personal boundaries, right? So 5,000 subscribers, a lot of INTP subscribers have just been passersby, people that I've seen comment on one or two videos, and that's great. That's totally fine. You're allowed to embrace my content however it sees fit. I should probably be blunt in saying that YouTube ads are not a way to make a living. So if you're assuming that that I'm doing fine in terms of ads and therefore don't want to contribute financially, that's just not true. I make $30 a month from these ads on YouTube, and that's obviously not enough to make a living off of this and continue to make this content, which is why we have patreon.com/DOPEamine, and mostly I want to be able to provide further value to you and your growth path as an INTP. That's why I've created courses and memberships and stuff like that. The main one being about INTP productivity and wanting to help you be more productive. But, you know, this isn't a sales pitch. This is just me telling you what this has been like. You know, I've had struggles with wanting to carry on with this channel. Is it worth it? Like, am I getting am I getting what I'm hoping out of it, right? Like, for me, I guess what is my driving mission continuously is that I feel like INTPs are so incredibly valuable in the world. If you think about the big picture in terms of what's happening in America or across the world in various ways, especially around on the internet, you know, there's a bit of a hive mind that happens to people. There's a collective unconscious is not necessarily always a good thing. I think Eckhart Tolle said something to the effect of like the closest thing to evil, I think, is a severe unconsciousness. And so that's really what I'm trying to do on this channel, is helping INTPs to be more conscious of your own tendencies so that you can bring your skills to the world, not to correct people, not to fix people, whatever, but just when you're having a discussion, just to ask questions. or to point out some inconsistencies in a respectful way and learn how to do that, or learn how to contribute in the way that you can contribute as an INTP, finding your passion, finding leaning into your strengths as an individual, and not getting so distracted like everybody else does about other people, right? Like, we can claim all we want that we're INTPs and we don't think about other people, but it is happening unconsciously. And that's why I think it's even more important for INTPs, because you may not realize how much you are giving credence to other people in your life, whether it's blaming them for your lack of success, or blaming them for creating all sorts of evils in the world and you're a perfect person, or you're super strong, or whatever, or there's things to fear in the world and everyone needs to know what there is to fear and all this stuff. Like, that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to help you focus yourself on your needs, on your shadow, on your existence as an INTP, how to use your mind to its greatest capacity. Because INTPs, I believe, and perhaps this is based on my story, like, I did not have an easy go of it, and I'm still working on it. I definitely had a lot of my own challenges, and I've cataloged that throughout the podcast and throughout this YouTube channel. Mental health struggles, trying to figure out this dyslexia stuff, trying to figure out why I was underserved as a kid, why and how I can serve, my kids better, and how I can serve other INTPs better, or be a mentor to INTPs who are feeling underserved, or feeling unmotivated, or feeling like they have nothing to contribute, or feeling like there's no hope, or that no one can understand, or no one cares, right? And there's a very real reality of INTPs. We feel overwhelmed because anyone who, for example, is using extroverted feeling as their dominant function is going to feel like they always have people backing them up much of the time, that they've got a circle of friends, or they've got a community, or if they've got someone that is going to back up even an inconsistent thought. And whereas an INTP, if you are the person by yourself noticing an inconsistent thought, it's a struggle to get that thought out there, because it's you against the community. It's you. It feels like you against the world, right? And so I understand that feeling. I understand that frustration. But there's a reason that your type of mind exists as an INTP. There's a reason that you were born. I mean, I don't mean like a spiritual. I don't necessarily mean that it's like a God-given thing or anything like that. Though, if that helps you understand that, that's fine. Plenty of INTPs can be religious, and but what I'm talking about is that every personality type, whether that's Myers-Briggs or Enneagram, seems to be some sort of action and reaction version to each other, right? So if there were only extroverted feelers in the world, there would be sort of a Borg hive mind, and they would just be plowing over everything, and everyone would have to conform to whatever the social ideal is, which is sometimes happening in the world, and can feel like that's what's happening everywhere. But if the world was run by INTPs, just TI focused, it would be a bunch of individuals who would find every little logical reason to let another person kill each other or do something heinous to each other because it logically made sense and that there was no emotional consideration, right? So, there's a reason that the world does not follow any single ideology, because there are multiple brains and we kind of keep each other in check. Right. So the social component is actually valuable. When it comes to spiral dynamics, the first tier of spiral dynamics, there's a common theme is comparison. The human experience is about comparison, whether it's good or bad. It's just what happens, right? Like, you compare yourself to other people. As an INTP, you may be comparing yourself to other INTPs, or even assimilating to other INTPs. That's like another reason that I do this channel, is I've seen many INTPs who learn about the stereotypes of INTPs, or get to know INTPs through Reddit threads or some of the unhealthy INTPs, and assume that's how I'm supposed to be, and unconsciously assimilate to that culture of I'm an INTP, so therefore I'm always going to be socially useless. And that's just not true. You can develop those skills just like you can develop any other skill, right? Your energy usage is going to depend on, that focus. If I'm an INTP and I can have this temporary energy to talk on camera and work through my thoughts, and I've had a lot of practice with some of this extroverted feeling expression. But there's a limit to it. I will be pretty exhausted after this. And even though many of you have seen me on camera doing this sort of thing, you don't see who I am outside of this. And I'm usually pretty quiet. I'm usually working through a lot of thoughts. I'm usually building on ideas. But my best life comes from allowing myself to be surprised by life, by allowing myself to not get so attached to my thoughts, and to understand and value other people's experiences just as much as I'm valuing my own. And it really does start with you. Like, if you can really value your experience as an INTP, not overvalue, but value it in terms of honoring and accepting yourself, understanding your unconscious shadow elements, and beginning to see that within yourself, like the empathy kind of starts to naturally happen. Even if that's like a cognitive empathy, which I've talked about in past podcasts and YouTube videos, that if you can understand why someone thinks the way that they do, then you suffer less. And that's another thing too, is like, I want to help INTPs to get past their own suffering. Like, there's a lot of self-inflicted suffering that INTPs have and bring into our lives through the lens of logic. This person's not being logical, blah, 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 blah. It's like, why does that matter? Let them not be logical. If it's affecting you, then how can you duck and weave and handle that? If it's affecting other people, how can you have conversations with other people and maybe work through that stuff, right? But ultimately, if someone's on their stuff, let them have their stuff. It's more complex than that, I know. But really, INTPs do the core things that every human does. And I think that's important to remember, that even though there's the robot stereotypes, there's data from Star Trek and all of these comparisons to personalities that are more data-driven and maybe a little bit more one-sided when it comes to introverted thinking. Data is actually a really good example because he's trying to understand the human experience more. But to accept that you're human. You're not some weird human-robot hybrid. You bleed, like you stab yourself and you will bleed. You are organic. You are human, right? And sometimes that helps too, because I've gotten many comments from INTPs who are saying that I'm wrong and that INTPs are objective. And it's like, no, you're not objective. You're trying to be, but that's okay. It's that's part of the process of getting to know how your thinking is tied to your feeling, right? Like, feelings are something that exist within all of us. And it's because we're human. That's just the part of it, right? So accepting that, I think, is valuable. And even though this might freak you out, that's okay. Take your time, feel it on your own. I know there are a lot of Enneagram 5s that watch my content. You still very much have feelings, that, but you feel it a little bit more safely on your own. And that's okay. I want to provide that opportunity for you to feel these things and then be able to step out of your shell and perhaps try to share those feelings in other ways. I'm not here. I want to say that even though it's been a long road to get to 5,000, I didn't even think I would get to 5,000 subscribers, honestly. But being here makes me realize that I didn't want to just take the low road. I didn't want to take the obvious road of talking about all the 16 personality types. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I didn't want to pander. I didn't want to just do kitschy, cute, stereotypical content. I wanted to talk specifically to INTPs who I felt were underserved. And of course, I'm an INTP, so I'm always going to feel that INTPs are underserved. I know other personality types are like, INFJs are underserved and ENFJs are underserved. Like, that's just what everyone's going to think. But this is part of my story. And so part of my story, part of my passion is helping you as a result of my story. And, I've had trouble as a kid being an observer. People even thought when I was in middle school that because I would sit back and sort of observe everyone that I was a creeper or something. And there's a lot of feelings that come up with that, especially as a male. And there's a lot of stuff to wrestle with as an INTP, especially when you're not attuned to emotions, your own emotions, as well as other types might be, right? And so that might leak out through your logic. That might leak out through your worldview. And so some of the things I want to cover going forward on this channel is going to be related to INTPs as one node in a complicated system in us as human beings, right? So one of the things I've tried to do in the past, which I'm really not going to do anymore, is trying to combine systems, right? And in a way, I still am, but like combining systems in a way of like trying to squish them together, like that's not really helpful. These individual systems exist because they support each other. They're pillars, they're attributes in a way. So I think of them as like, INTP is one little node. And then like, what happens to the INTP when you attach Enneagram 7 to it? How does that transform the INTP experience? And then what if that Enneagram 7 is Graves 4 blue or Spiral Dynamics 4 blue? How does that transform that person? And then what if that person is older? What if they're like 55 years old? An INTP 7 who is in 4 blue at 55 years old. What does that look like, right? And so I want to explore some of these other systems as like a stacking system, not necessarily like smushing everything together, but from the base level of an INTP as like the control node, how can we then attach the Enneagram and the 27 subtypes, the main 9 types, the 27 subtypes? What does the passion look like? What does the fixation look like? What are some of these other elements look like for an INTP? And because there's already so much variety of an INTP just by itself, right? And there's reasons for like the varieties. There's so many reasons, right? And that's really what I want the main takeaway to be for this channel, is that even though you're an INTP, you are not the same as another INTP. You could have the same vibe, the same energy, the same whatever, because maybe you happen to be the same age, or maybe you happen to be the same level of maturity, or the same spiral dynamics level, or a very similar or complementary Enneagram type. And, you can feel like you have similar vibes. But what I think is important for INTPs and for you to understand as an INTP is that you are not like other INTPs in an exact, accurate way. Though there are similarities, this is not about traits. This is about cognition. Mental Myers-Briggs and mental models are about cognition. I always think of, when I'm relating the Myers-Briggs and the Enneagram, I'm always saying that the Myers-Briggs is more of the how. It's like, this is how I process. This is how I think. This is how I prefer to make decisions. This is how I learn. This is how I enjoy myself leisurely. Whereas the Enneagram feels like the why. This is like, why am I freaking out? Why am I scared of this? Why am I wanting to create this? Why do I want this type of passion or purpose? Why am I trying to create this thing? Why am I attuned to these people and not these people, right? So you can use your cognition as an INTP to connect with nearly anyone through the lens of being an INTP, right? Like, introverted thinking is not a doomed process of you not being able to connect with people. Like, introverted thinking is inherently a disconnection tool in a way. It's about severing. It's a sharp knife. It's clean cutting ideas. It's creating distinctions. But some people value that, right? And it's not about it. It's not as if, like, I used the FE comparison earlier, the extroverted feeling comparison earlier, where extroverted feeling feels like they maybe have like a whole bunch of people backing them up on their ideas. But a lot of those connections for an unhealthy extroverted feeler may be shallow connections. And as an INTP, as you develop and you connect with people, like, you create strong bonds with fewer people. And you can have really, really great connections and a really great little community around you that satisfies that need within you. And so you don't necessarily need to use your introverted thinking to connect with everyone. But if you can cognitively start to have empathy and understand why other people are thinking the way that they do, or understanding that someone maybe exists in a certain worldview, or maybe that they are a certain Enneagram type, so everything's filtered through this particular lens, or that there are a ENFP and their mind is always searching for new exciting criteria or new exciting opportunities, that they're going to be a little bit more flighty and distracted than you might be. Or even as an INTP that you're developing, and at some point you get into your 20s and you're like, why am I so flighty all of a sudden? That's just part of development. That's part of growth. So understanding that within yourself helps to understand that within others, and have a little bit more patience and not feel like you need to overuse your introverted thinking in every single case. I talked about recently in a video about the mental storage system of an INTP, and how, if we have too many open tabs, that kind of clogs up our system memory, our random access memory, and our ability to have a better flow, right? And that's one of the things I want to help support also, is creating a better flow for yourself. Like I talked about with suffering, you don't need to have the world's problems in your head all the time. And that does happen for an INTP. You could be logically thinking about why it doesn't make sense that corporations are not fixing the global problems, or, global warming, or religious problems, or, I don't know, whatever it is that you care about, right? There's still things that you care about, but it's through an introverted thinking lens. And so I really want to let you know that, you don't need to hold on to those things all the time. That's what extroverted feeling is for. That's what play is for. That's what writing things down is for, talking and expressing yourself. Just getting it out there so you can refocus your energy. I have all sorts of videos about extroverted feeling and how to do that sort of thing. And then there's deeper content, obviously, on the premium stuff as well. So this ended up being a longer rant than I was expecting, but really, I'm incredibly grateful for 5,000 subscribers. Thank you for being here. Thank you for having the bell icon turned on so you can watch them right away. I see more and more people are doing that, which is great because I post sporadically and I have really no schedule because I am trying to lean into my rebel tendency. And, I appreciate you so very, very much for being here, for sharing, and for asking questions and letting me know what topics you want to connect with. So 2 final things. One, since I've been realizing, the challenges that I've been having with dyslexia, I've been wanting to create more articles, but I'm having trouble because of that dyslexia. So I'm getting some help to create some articles and put things into written form. I would still like to make books and do that stuff. It's just, that's why I've leaned into video, because it's a challenge. So when you leave a comment, if you're leaving a longer comment, if you could help me by breaking up the text, not doing one big long string of text, that really helps me to be able to answer your questions sooner. Even if it's just a line break after every other thought or every few sentences, that would be a really big help for my brain to be able to keep up with all of this. And then lastly, I have a major coupon code for you. If you sign up for our email list, I'm going to post it. I'm going to try to get it posted today, by the end of the day, or tomorrow. I shouldn't do that because then my rebel tendency is like, no, I don't want to do it. I'm going to post it soon. And so sign up for our email list, and I'm going to send a 50% off coupon code to any of the programs that are available on our website at DOPEamine.school. And we're just going to keep doing this. I've had some challenges with motivation around this channel, but I keep coming back, and there's a reason for it. I just want to be supportive. I want to create evergreen stuff that is here for whenever you need it, and support my fellow INTPs, because you have a lot to offer the world. There's a lot of opportunity to create important distinctions. And I'll end on this note, because I feel like if you're in America and you're aware of American politics, there's this... The common rhetoric is that there's constant division or divisiveness. But I actually think the problem is that there's not enough distinction. there's not enough distinction because there's more of a groupthink on the two main political party sides, that everything's kind of getting bundled together into this red or blue vibe. But there are so many distinctions within each. There's, and I'm not just talking extreme versus conservative, but that there are people who care about certain things and some people who don't, but they're in the same political party. Or that there are, basically that's it. It's just that there's kind of this massive groupthink that I think a healthy INTP can help to create those distinctions for themselves, not to go around preaching or being righteous or going around the internet arguing with people. That's not what I'm inviting you to do. I'm saying that it helps to understand your distinctions, so that when you have a conversation with someone, when someone comes to me and they start assuming that I'm a political anything, I'm like, I'm not voting right now. My politics are not relevant. What I care about is what I care about. Even if it's someone who has voted the same way that I voted in the past, that there are things that I care about in a certain way and things that they care about in a certain way. And that what's important to me is not caring about something just because it's what's going to make me feel morally righteous, or what's going to make me feel a sense of fake belonging, in a sense, right? Like, I'm always attuning to what matters to me. And even if that creates some contradiction between what is perceived as blue versus red, right? There are things that you can just never, as a person, be holistically one political thing. Because like identities at any sort of static point are typically what causes many of the biggest problems in the world. And identities end up leading to a sense of righteousness, to a sense of good versus evil, us versus them. I'm a good person, they're a bad person, let me destroy them. Like, most of the awful things in society and existence have happened because of someone who felt that they were a good person doing a good thing. You are not a good or bad person by any holistic means. Like, we're ebbs and flows, we're complicated, we're not simple. And so to treat ourselves as simple is to shortchange ourselves. And that's the same thing for you as an INTP, or whatever other types you resonate with. That at the end of the day, these things are tools. They're helpful for understanding how you think, or why you're focused on something, or where your perceived limits are of understanding the scope of reality or society or whatever. But these are not the end. These are not stagnant. Your personality type, as far as we know, does not change in terms of Myers-Briggs, but your relationship to it does. You become a healthier INTP, or a more expansive INTP, or that you can learn to use your introverted thinking in a more focused way, or extroverted intuition, and be able to flow between your different functions in a healthy way, and get to know your limits and then how to break those limits. Those things were always expansive and ever evolving and ever changing. So, I'm hoping that this video can serve as a little bit of a meditation or a mantra for you, or a pep talk, or something that can get you into maybe a more peaceful state, maybe a little bit more focused on yourself in a way that's not negative. But if there's, not meaning you can accept and analyze some things in yourself that are maybe negative, but not harping on it so much that you can keep living your life, and you inherently bring value just by existing. That's just true. There's no debating it. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. So, I'm going to wrap because I got work I got to get back to, but I appreciate you. Thank you so much for 5,000 subscribers. This is a big deal. Thanks for being one of them. And I appreciate you for hitting the bell icon and subscribing, so that when I post new videos, you will get notified right away and can watch them at your leisure. And remember that we always have new stuff coming at our school. DOPEamine.school is a premium school for INTPs, and I'm going to be doing some stuff around creativity as well, and opening a membership soon with premium videos talking about all sorts of in-depth topics like spiral dynamics and stuff like that. But the flagship thing right now, or well, they're two things. It's two flagships really. The INTP Empowerment Guide, if you're generally learning to grow and want to understand your functions in full depth and compare them to my life experiences and things that I've learned, and not just what I've learned, but what I've been trained to see in other INTPs, but then in my profiling experience, and I bring that to those programs. And then the INTP Productivity Master Quest. I've been a designer for 20 years. I've been a freelancer for a long time. I am self-propelled. I know how to, a part of self-examination is being able to learn how to engage with the world. And that means communicating with leaders and teams, and finding clients, or just getting the best work out of yourself, honoring your time, also setting the boundaries that you need to set, and reframing your relationship to deadlines, even, because they can be very powerful and helpful for you as an INTP. So all those things are in the description below. Just any support would be amazing. If you have questions, comments below, line breaks, all that fun stuff. And I'm going to wrap this up. So I appreciate you. Take care of yourself. And I'll catch you next time on DOPEamine. Bye.